sir, you were a voice actor, and then they have your face, and so it's just like man, you're a legacy character, and because it's funny, like your Zordon character is like up there with like the Professor X.
Right. Right.
Because I wanted your take on like how did you feel about the movie and then definitely the gritty fan film? Did you get a chance?
Oh yeah, the one that Joseph Kahn directed. Yeah. It's very humbling to know that the character is so revered by fans and stuff that because when I was on the show, my time on it as an actor was extremely brief. They only filmed the character one time and then recycled the footage over and over, and I just went in and did voices. And so I felt very much like Zordon, that I was very disconnected from the rest of the cast. They were off doing stuff on the set, and I would just go in like every 5 or 6 weeks to do voices, so I didn't feel very connected. It was only after I had left the show and sort of moved on with my life and started to do appearances and stuff in 2011 that I realized how important the character was for a lot of folks. So I feel very grateful to have been a part of it, even though I felt like I was a very small contribution to that. But at the same time, I also look at like, as you said, the legacy of the character is that he is thought of as sort of like this Professor X mentor, that he's there when the characters need him, and he's very supportive, and I'm very proud of that.
Are there any, like, can you tell us if you're going to be coming back, or like maybe I'm trying to think, because like I remember seeing this fan film where it was when Zordon, before he got trapped into the time warp.
Sure, yeah.
If they want to bring you back like that or something.
Yeah, and to go back and to answer the part of the question that you asked me earlier about the Joseph Kahn 2016 or something like that. They did the gritty Power / Rangers too. And while that was very cool visually, it really wasn't Power Rangers. It didn't capture the spirit of the show, but it was very cool to see it done in a much more modern, gritty kind of way. And I think that really sort of tweaked people's interest in how can we bring it into a more modern age. And I did participate in a fan film that was made called Zordon of Eltar, which tells the story about how Zordon fighting Rita before he actually got trapped in the time warp. I did the voice for King Mondo in that little fan film. So, and they actually explored Zordon as much more of an active, physical fighting role in that character, much like in the 2017 movie where you get to see Bryan Cranston as the Red Ranger at the beginning of that movie. So, I don't have any information about whether or not the character will ever be brought back. I have not been contacted or approached in any sort of way, but never say never. I mean, with Hasbro doing a lot of things, doing a lot of exciting things, I would love for them to do like an animated series. That way they could bring us all back and have us voice the characters that we played. And I think that would be very cool. But at this point in time, I don't have any information about appearances or resurrections or anything like that. So.
The fan film. Is the fan film with Sony?
Yeah, Sony Arlen.
Okay,
Yeah.
I saw that. I didn't know that you were the voice of King Mondo, unless it was in the credits. And just
Yeah. You have to go back and rewatch it. So,
okay,
yeah.
all right. I didn't know that. Okay. Speaking of fan films, how do you feel about fan films, like as far as their contribution to the mythos of time?
I think they're all great. I think that very much like the cosplay that I see at every convention I go to, the characters are such an indelible part of pop culture history that people want to recreate them or to embody them on some level. And so it speaks to the power of the Power Rangers storytelling that those characters much like the DC heroes or the Marvel heroes, they've captured people's imaginations, and I encourage anybody who wants to experiment with telling stories in film in that way to go ahead and make those things. I myself don't. I have no interest in being on film anymore. So whenever people approach me to be the character of Zordon in a fan film or to recreate the character, I have to politely, gently turn them down because that's not where my interests lie these days. But I'm always very encouraging of them, and I'm like, run with it, explore with it as much as you like to, and expand on it and tell your stories, and that's very cool. So.
How? Because I'm curious about this. So, like, how did you find out about the role Zordon?
Do you want the long story or the short?
I would like the long story, but I don't think you have that.
Oh, yeah, I've got a little bit of time. So I became very interested in acting at an early age. I began doing plays and stuff in high school. Was a huge fan of comic books and superheroes and stuff, and had decided probably around the age of 14, 15 that I wanted to be on TV. I wanted to, do those kind of things. I loved storytelling. I was experimenting with writing back then, basically rewriting comic book stories that I was reading and stuff. But when I got into acting and got out of high school, I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts at a school called Southwest Texas State University in San Marcos, Texas. And I made a lot of great friends there. And when I went off to the University of Pittsburgh to get my Master of Fine Arts in acting, a lot of them moved out to Los Angeles. So 3 years later, when I finished my MFA and I moved out to Los Angeles, they were already all out there. So I had a support group of friends that I already knew that could tell me the ins and outs of getting around Los Angeles, what the industry was like. And 2 months after I moved there, a friend that I had met at my undergraduate school in Texas, Stacy Fish, was actually working at Saban at the time. And she was working on their direct-to-video movies and stuff. And she was the second assistant director or something along those lines for this kids pilot that they were shooting called Dino Rangers. And she called me up one day and said, do you want to audition for a role for this show? And I was like, well, yeah, that's why I came to Los Angeles. And like I said, I'd only been there for a couple of months. And I went down there thinking that it was going to be a cattle call, that there would be 15,000 other guys. I'd go in, read some lines, and then never hear anything. But when I got down to the building that evening or that afternoon, there were just two of us. There was myself and another gentleman. And they said, we're going to cast it today, and we're going to film next week. Are you available? And I was, yeah, of course I'm available. And so we separated to each corner, and my memory of it is that I could hear him practicing the lines for this character of a 10,000-year-old wizard who was trapped in a time warp. That's the only information that we were given. And I didn't agree with the take that he was doing because he was using a much more crackly, high-pitched kind of voice. And when I was reading the lines and I was thinking about the character, I was thinking, no, I think he needs to have a little bit more weight. He needs to have a deeper bass-type voice. So they took him in first, and he was in the room for about 20 minutes. And then he came out and he left, and I went in and I met the original cast. I met the director, the producers, a couple of people from the studio, and then they had me stand up on a table like this, and I basically did the voice that you heard in the pilot show, The Day of the Dumpster. And when I got done doing the first little monologue, I remember Austin St. John, the original Red Ranger, turning to everybody and said, well, I think we found our Zoltar, which was the name of the character at the time. And I went home. A couple hours later, I got a phone call saying, congratulations, you got the part. They told me where to show up the next week. I went down there. They shaved all my hair off. They glued my ears back, slathered me with green paint, and the rest is history. So.
Sweet. Oh, man. And you, you're, because you mentioned comic books, and I did not know that you helped write the script for The Order.
Yeah, Karen and I both worked on the script. We traded ideas back and forth, and that was a very fun process writing the script with her. So yeah.
So when
I don't have any information on that. I know Karen is working really hard to try to sell it to some production company, but I haven't heard anything about the status of that at this point.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. All right, thank you.
You bet. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Alrighty. Thanks for having me.